We had planned, since this tonight, by the way, marks the celebration of our 20th year on the air. And we had intended to mark the event by having me tonight, like, reenact some of the highlights from the last 20 years from previous shows, but alas and thank God, just as I intended, it has reached the point that I find it impossible to redo anything that I've done before. So there's one thing. Perhaps we are making some improvement. Got a letter forwarded from one of the channels out in the Midwest. Someone had seen the show and they sent a letter complimenting specifically me on my warmth and charm. I'm like you. I can try, maybe, all right, charm and warmth? I don't know. There's got to be, I won't say some improvement, it's some kind of change, because after 20 years, that's the first one I received like that. Oh, and one more thing also. I wanted to point out that in spite, just to be serious for a second, in spite of the serious allegations I've made about myself, I wanted to state publicly that I still stand by and I still support me. Series 94004, items 1 through, believe it or what, 60. Man's duties and essay. Man's first duty is to survive. His second one is to assist his race to do so. And his third one is to bitch about it. The only way a man will tolerate an unsatisfying, meaningless life is to operate with only fixed, limited attention. That is, to stare. And not to be looking around the object of his fixed attention. Note, ordinary thought is fixed attention. And now, from our Electronic University of the Air. Today's lesson is from the course Prones 101. If you're human, you're prone to dislike change. Class dismissed. A certain businessman, while reflecting on the uncertainties of thought production, as specifically regards distribution, said to himself, "My mind thinks gold, my lips speak silver, then my listeners hear tin." If you ever consider the effect, should they shout from an upper story window, then run down to the ground and receive the sound? If hormones and neurons did not speak two different languages, we would not have any neurons. The news ain't the news once you know what's going on. Another rhetorical come on. This one entitled, How It Should Be. Fun, physical, entertainment, intellectual. Show and tell, sort of. Those who believe that life has finally gone too far are themselves deficient in sufficient travel experience. Or, if death don't kill you, progress will. And now another entry from our New Intelligence Desk Dictionary, specifically from the section immediately after the letter F. Government, the religion of the secular. The dense and simplistic would unhesitatingly rail and defend themselves even from attack by their inferiors. And none of your smart-ass asides, if you don't mind. How to think, short version. If you save the best for later, you won't have a later. No. Now an excerpt from the delegates' dialogue. Ideas are just like food. There's always more where that came from. But you're wrong. There is no endless supply of food. No, you are wrong. What is it that you think we all stand on? But by then the second man was no longer sure if they were talking about the earth and food or the mind and thought. Civilization is the world's only structure whose construction process itself produces its building plans. Right, starboard, left. Land ho. See, some of you remember that one. Unless you made up your own version. Hormones make you fat. Neurons make you suffer over it. Another barometer by which to determine the continuing health and expansion of man is that life becomes more and more talk. Caution. Explosions cause property damage, burn injuries, the creation of whole universes, and unwanted pregnancies. Caution, cob brains. One guy complained to local conditions. Hey, somebody broke in my house. And conditions replied, but you don't have a house. And the guy said, they still broke in. And local conditions asked you viewers, are any of you guys out there finally beginning to get this one? Complex fashion tip. An ugly woman should wear a long dress and a dumb man a large hat. Feel free to rearrange at your pleasure. Consider, here's the matter. They're still rearranging. Finish it up later. On to item 15, here we go. Here's the matter. This is the matter. The reality right before your eyes, the reality right behind your eyes. A man writes, thanks to watching your show, I no longer much care what happens in life. Now I only care what I think about it. One absolute requirement for being ordinary and everyday is to be able to be a complete dunce and never suspect it. Yeah. How to deal with success in your own personal efforts. Don't stop to give yourself credit even when you have some, but press on with the kind of renewed vigor the ordinary would temporarily feel under similar circumstances. Course title, Evidence. Hell, Proof, 101. 102, If human efforts could ever reach completion or perfection, then there would be no dictionary as extant beyond the first edition. Why would you need it, huh? Come on. The current reflections of one man, notes he, learning from others will at least teach you one thing, how little others know. Definition break. A more conscious mind, the only nose that furnishes its own grindstone. Ode to the parallel worlds. There is eating, there is dining, there is sleep, then reclining, there is sex, and then romance. Jump right in when you spot a chance. To live an unsatisfying, that is, routine life, requires that one live in a near catatonic, intellectually dazed condition. One brief history of human progress. 'Tis gone from an awe of nature to a fear of God, to a respect for the king, to a dread of the IRS. One day a man came to the very center of the city, a place where two boulevards diverged. And he paused and looked about him, then reflected, lo, he unto himself. Well, I'm doing the lowing part, the reflecting part. This is him. Is man's civilization an imaginary Parthenon or a quite real cuckoo clock? Another point to ponder if you're into pointy ponderings, I guess. When young, a father told his son, "Those who talk likely talk too much." And when older, the lad said to himself, "And those who talk too much talk way too much." Truth be known, this was actually an attempt again to slip in a subtle notation regarding the complex relationship between just ordinary thinking and increased consciousness. Truth also be known as regards also their simplistic relationship as well. Life shields and helps protect its ever-increasing civilized complexity with the illusionary cloak of ever-increasing pseudo-seriousness. I didn't have a cloak. Our explorational thought for the day. Explorational. The mind is like a radio that can't be turned off, but the son of a bitch can be tuned. Well, I feel inspired. The bad news is that rituals are for people who don't know what to do. Of course, this is also the good news for those who do. And now from the new intelligence files of psychology squat, theology squish, sociology squirm, civic behavior. It's a definition. Habit. A poor man's ritual. Well, all right, quit staring at me like an expectant pup. I'll do it. Ritual. A fool's ritual. How fame works. Neurons can be impressed, hormones only frightened. One man has written the title for a new book. Time is in your hat, space in your pants. Do you know a publisher? Modern urban myth. After screwing up really pretty badly, one guy said to God, "Okay, I deserve it. Do your worst. Either strangle me or make me wear underwear." And God couldn't figure out which end the man was actually talking about. Well, maybe somebody's brother knows somebody in publishing. First guy, ordinary minds will break before they'll expand. Second guy, don't you mean the ordinary minds will break before they'll bend? First guy, same thing. As regards the apparent continuing struggle between the parallel worlds, one chap waxed and reflected philosophically, just so. Why commit suicide when you're just going to die anyway? Topic: how being civilized can color your perceptions and opinions. Hey, I didn't know that was in question. Hey, just let me go with the definition, okay? How being civilized can color your perceptions and opinions. Definition: pervert. A sexual partner you just haven't tried yet. You think this could somehow be also applied to one's mindset? A correspondent furnishes us with our homily for the day. Quoting now, as opposed to before you got here. Quoting, one is never so cold as when in the lobby of a hotel one is not personally checked into. And a viewer says, I appreciate your growing lack of following up such items as the last one with comments about how we could take the little scene internally ourselves and perhaps use the info therein in our own individual thought processes. It just seems nice to see you begin to give us viewers some credit. Yours truly, etc. As they walked, a boy asked his father, which can feel the most displaced and disoriented in a strange environment, hormones or neurons? And they kept walking. Using economic terms, think of it like this. Your attitude toward being more conscious should be, I don't want a loan, I want an outright gift. How the senses are secretly not balanced. Ears only hear what ears say. Only God believes in justice, and He doesn't exist, which is why man had to invent Him. No. Under routine conditions, brains don't have thoughts. Thoughts have brains. Or, man doesn't think man's. When it came to dealing with general civilized mentality, and he applied for a position, the man was told that the only opening they had was for a cook, and he said he'd take it. And they asked if he was one, and he said no, but that he could cook. It was just that what he'd be cooking up, they wouldn't recognize. Surveying his common everyday physical life, one man said, I'm a bad boy. And in response thereto, his mind said, good boy. Once their attention was finally upon him, the speaker commenced to speak. Adulthood, he declared, the time we either unlearn or expand the follies of our youth. Tip time again. The safe way. Only compliment your inferiors. Everyday human speech and thought are the world's sole cause of permissible, nay, acceptable, nay, required plagiarism. Or you can't actually steal from one whose only possessions he himself pinched. In that civilized life is not serious, men must make it sound like it is. Sheep need flocks, men, religions, cultures, kings, countries, you name it. Out alone in a field, a certain man bent down and petted the ground as he pseudo-sighed to himself, ah, earth, almost like a home away from home. Almost. If men did not live in a semi-intellectual daze, they would scarce tolerate a civilized existence. Looms away. Consciousness is a textile mill. Thought, polka-dotted material. Hormones' job is to look good. Neurons' is to feel good. Part of civilization's secret weaponry is in the fact that while it never bores itself, it oftentimes does others. Food can affect a man's alertness. So can sleep. So can sex. Well, hell, so can being alive. Well, hell. Civic definitions. Duty. The people substitute for understanding. The idea for hypnosis came from observing man's normal mental state. Self-help, as practiced, well, attempted in the city. Neurons are exhorted to believe in themselves, while hormones have never heard of such crap. Making routine existence sound holy and heroic is the verbal sport of the insensitive and timid. Some neural news. Only cows ride buses. Updated livestock diagnosis and definition. Hoof and mouth disease. Men talking. Anything's possible in the intellectual world. P.S. It can be helpful to remember this. When it comes to awareness, economy itself can be a great expense. When asked if he was indeed a mystic of some sort, the man replied, "Nay, madam, I am a hot air balloon." One fellow's working slogan is, if you must talk about yourself, at least delete the adjectives. And this breaking story, the smartest man who ever lived died yesterday, and today, and tomorrow. See, that's how he stays so smart. Allegories and myths are a nice civilized attempt to sort of struggle against fixed thought and attention. One man has adopted this approach. Why be insulting when you can be quiet? And as regards being able to ultimately do something extraordinary in your life, even if man cannot actually be original, somehow you still must. A more alert man should be able to live on the line between neurons and hormones, on the boundary dividing now from the future, and in a land that is neither here nor quite yet there. Definition: a more alert man, a more conscious man in training, in endless training. Course: distinctions, last semester, final exam. When they awaken in the morning, the first thing the ordinary feel is ordinary. With the more alert, the first thing they feel every morning is on guard. Last couple of times, including last time, which would be included in the last couple of times. I'm on top of it. We were mentioning the part, that talk plays in the civilized life of, what are those things? Humans and man. You could also say, assuming that you can extract all semblances of aggression, hostility, and criticism, that is, anything you would normally think. If you can extract that, then, under those conditions, then we could say, from another view, that all talk, all civilized talk, that is ordinary talk, but civilized talk, is an attempt not to say certain things. And one more time, we're not just me, but I'm not going to allow you, not without bugging you, to fall into an idea of some ordinary critique of man using euphemisms, saying that, well, my uncle's gone to a better life. You mean he died? Not that. Extract the criticism. Because I was going to use some examples, but the examples are not the point. It's not that people are timid. It's not that in any individual circumstances there's anything amiss. But you can look at talk. Once people have started to talk, once humanity was driven from the silent garden of hormones and etc. and all that, all of my modern myths, whatever they were, it's not that they began to talk and then in some way have then gone astray, and that talk has become less than what it should be. Talk has become exactly what it should be. Not just bullshit. That's too common. I was trying to refine it a bit. You know, like heifer manure, or I don't know. But that all of talk, from the very beginning, which is really tricky to talk about. I don't mean just talk, but what I was about to say is from the outset, talk was the attempt to keep from talking about certain things. But if you think about that for a second, then you go, wait a minute. Why did they even start talking? You know, that would have been the trick. If talk was the attempt, if all ordinary talk is the attempt not to talk about certain things, then if you were some kind of smartass like the snake in the garden. Oh. I keep thinking it was show and tell time. Then you would say, well, why did they even start talking? No, I say you don't get it. That's why you read about myths instead of living one. All civilized talk can be seen as the attempt not to talk about certain things. And when I said that specific examples were not the point, let me put it to you. I'll start off even before I maybe pull out a specific example, just so you have something to stand on. The things that civilized talk is intended not to talk about are those things which are point blank, which also, since I keep saying that this sort of thing can't really be named and it shouldn't be, if just for the time being, you could call this kind of activity always. And I don't mean just us here today, but it could have always been called point blank. In fact, come think about it, we should and teach people a lesson. And then let them think, what the hell does that mean? All right, after having done all that, if you will not fall into being captured by any examples, I was going to go ahead and pull out some for a second, just to use as a springboard. What is, right today, circa 1994, what it would be considered, just for an ordinary view, real mainstream, civilized, psychologically up-to-date, politically correct, sensitive, guy and gal type stuff. One of the most common things nowadays is admissions. Admissions of guilt. Admissions of past fox passes. Well, nowadays what passes for entertainment, not to just blame it on entertainment, but what is common at cocktail, all the way from cocktail parties, people staying around discussing things, support groups at churches, social affairs, all the way to perhaps the mouthpiece of modern civilized Western world, talk shows on television and radio. Well, it's common to admissions of weakness. Alcoholism being the greatest one, I guess, going now. That and drug addiction, that's really getting, I guess, a little more hip. If you're 50, I guess you show up and you admit, yeah, I was an alcoholic, but then you bring on your child and they admit, yeah, they got hooked on coke in the 6th grade. But at any rate, but now listen, remember, we're not attacking the people, we're not attacking television, and we're not attacking the specific example. But it's just right there in your face that you don't even look at it if you're ordinary. Well, let's take the TV talk show kind of thing, kind of format. But it's life itself. It's not somebody's fault. It's not some particular person on TV and all that. This is life, civilized life, city life, extracting, interviewing, which is dancing with, which is you, if you're ordinary, your mind dancing with life as you find it. The external world, that which you keep trying to swim through, that which you think is. The environment that you think is somebody separate from you that you're having to deal with, trying to make progress through, trying to raise yourself, etc. We got a problem?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, that's my kind of guy. No problem. Well, how about that $20 you'll... Oh, never mind. All right, they asked somebody, well, we understand that, here's Mr. So-and-so and whoever he was, the man, anyway, tell us your story. So he says, well, I lost my wife and all my children. They left me, and at one time I had a college education. I had my own business, and I took up drinking, and I was... for 20 years, I was drinking day and night. I still held my job for a long time, but I was, slipping in the bathroom and all that. Oh, well, yeah. And so they said, well, of course, we'll get to it in a second, but we understand, of course, that you have now quit. Oh, yes. And so, but tell us, why did you start drinking? And you can make them up as fast as I can. And I said, well, my mother left when I was a child, or my father was killed before I even knew him. I don't know. I grew up in just a one-family household. I grew up poor. I grew up, whatever the story. Well, don't laugh yet. At any rate, and they will tell, all the kinds of stories, but when we're talking about that which is part of civilized, non-mistaken, non-misstepped, middle of the road, middle of life, civilized existence. But notice this, no one ever says point blank. They say, well, tell us, we got some time here. Before we get into details of how you recovered and how you're doing today, which is really going to take up a small part of the interview normally, because what you want to hear is the juicy parts. Why did you drink? For 20 years you drank. You say you started when? I couldn't have been over 15. Somebody gave me a drink, I can still remember it. Gave me a beer in high school out behind the drive-in restaurant we used to hang around. I still remember taking that first one. And then 20 years you drank, lost everything, Well, tell us, why, looking back now, why do you think, why did you drink that long? And so they'll go into the story, something psychological, sociological. No one ever says this. No one ever says, why did you drink? It made my brain feel good. Life. The interviewer, but we're talking about life. We're talking about the rest of the civilized world, the city, wherever you live, literal and figurative. They're waiting like, oh, okay, well, why'd you do it? That's it. The rest of it's bullshit. The rest of it's to keep from saying that. I just knew you was going to miss part of it. Do you understand? There's only one reason. Now, this is just us talking. Don't ever let any of the public ever hear this. There's only one reason that people take drugs, drink, all kinds of other stuff, like try and have mystical experiences or go to church, but that's not even worth talking about anymore. There's only one reason that people drink and take drugs. One reason only. It makes their brain feel good. That's it. Case closed. Does anybody ever say that? So the rest of it, I said, don't laugh so soon. The rest of it is succeeding because from a view, you could take one view that you could say, well, wait a minute, this whole thing about people being victimized by life and their environment, it's gone far enough. No, it hadn't. If you think it's gone far enough, that means you're getting tired of it, of hearing the same stories like, well, I grew up poor. And if I'm saying you, not generically like you're an ordinary person, you think, God, I'm tired of hearing that. It's boring. It's like hearing, I like the new song by the, is Mary and Jesus Chain? Whoever's hot now. Nirvana or somebody, they say, well, I liked the song when I first heard it, but, and it was one of my favorites. But hearing it 4,000 times now in the last 6 months, enough's enough. All right? That's the way people feel. And they would say, wait a minute, I'm sick of hearing, I'm playing the part now of some social critic or even just somebody sitting at home or somebody might hear this say, yeah, I'm on your side, I know what you mean. I'm sick of hearing people say that the only reason they ever took up drugs was because they were poor. I'm just picking that one out. No, they're not tired of the explanations, they're tired of hearing that one. And they can say, well, I'm tired of that whole thing, it's just weakness. It's just people are weak, and they're just looking for an excuse. But that same kind of person, I don't mean one person, I'm talking about one segment of life's intellectual body, as soon as they expand it and it comes up with a new one, you know, child abuse. That's been a good one now for, several years. You know, I just remembered. You know, I'd forgotten. I've been drinking now for 20 years, and I didn't know what it was until I was watching your show, as a matter of fact. You know, there's this person saying 2 years ago, and suddenly it's like I'd suppressed it all these years, and it came back that my uncle used to sexually abuse me. And then it struck me when you remember that girl that was on your show, or this guy on your show 2 years ago? And the interview goes, yeah, I do. I was sitting at home, drinking again as usual. Like what? And as soon as she started describing about her uncle slipping her in the room at night. And suddenly, after all this time, it came to me, my uncle did that to me. And then I realized why I had wasted 20 years of my life drinking. And the audience, life goes, oh. You know, don't forget the reason is the person drank because it made their nervous system, the brain specifically. Did I start off even point blank for you people? Yeah, I could have said something like, the only reason people drink or take drugs, it makes them feel good. It doesn't make them feel good in toto. It makes their body hurt. It makes their stomach hurt. As soon as you pour alcohol in your stomach goes, what are you, nuts? But see, when life civilized man, when life started to open up this barnyard, well, this, you know, began raising, you know, engaging in a kind of animal husbandry. Life knew what it was doing. It knew it was going to raise them up and civilize them. So it did this, at least. When it knew it was going to have alcohol around, notice this. Alcohol hits your stomach first. And immediately, you know, unless you are insane, but if you're any ordinary person, as soon as it hits your stomach, from here down, from the hormonal level down, your stomach says, you know, you're crazy. What the hell is this? But life knows what it's doing. Because, as you probably know, alcohol moves into, as far as I know, into the blood system. It just permeates. It goes right through the stomach lining. And any of you who drink know, take a nice shot of, you know, something weak, beer, especially with something good, you know, a little shot of Jack Daniels in your stomach, it hits your stomach, and it goes, but all you got to do is wait, 15, 20 seconds? And it just goes right through the stomach wall, directly into the bloodstream. It's not like old damn food like okra, or, you know, you got to wait, 10 hours for your body to digest it. Alcohol goes right through there into your bloodstream and goes, and all you got to do, your stomach, you think, wait a minute, oh, if I can just wait a minute, within 15 or 20 seconds it hits your brain, you go, that's what you were wanting. So let's see, that's why I didn't fussy put around to start with. I didn't say that people won't say that drinking makes them feel good. No. See, you might have, but see, I thought you look like my kind of people. I just jumped right to the point. It makes your brain feel good. That's why you drink. You don't drink to make your body feel good. Nobody's that nuts. If they are, they're nuts. So that takes care of that. You don't drink and think, boy, I don't like the way it makes my head feel kind of giddy up there in my brain. What I like is it makes me stumble, fall down. I'm always breaking a leg and skinning my knee. So, not only will people not say that, they cannot say that. Of course, they can say the words, but notice no one ever says that. No one just ever says, boy, you drink a lot. Why do you drink? Makes my brain feel good. Think about it. And so, but what I wanted you to see, the point out where I left you there for a minute, was that we're already to the point, using sort of modern, using contemporary psychological, sociological views, we're already to the point, as you should expect, that there's already a tug and pull, that there are already critics of saying, this whole thing about people being victimized by circumstance and making them drink, boy, we're getting tired of that. No. They're not getting tired of it. They're getting tired of what are the explanations they believe they continue to hear, and so they keep coming up with new ones. Like, I was a victim of sexual abuse, and I didn't know it until I started hearing about it. And then it'd been repressed, and that came back to me. And people shake their head, because that was a new one a couple of years ago. That one's, I guess, getting a little worn down now, but everybody nods their head like, 20 years drinking. I mean, to imagine your uncle made you run. 20 years of your life wasted in a family, in a business, And it was so horrible, you repressed it. Yeah, I didn't even remember. There I was drinking for 20 years, all the time wondering why, aside. He wasn't wondering why. It made his brain feel good. But anyway, back to this real life. 20 years wondering constantly, why do I drink like this? What makes me every day want to drink? And I didn't know what it was until I heard repressed incest, repressed childhood sexual abuse. And I thought, that's it. I'd forgotten all about it. In fact, I forgot that I had an uncle. But at any rate, now I remember I had an uncle and he abused me. That's it. All right, so you understand that it's not just me standing here pulling this out. There are people already attacking it specifically, locally. That is, exemplary, saying, well, we don't like people making excuses. Of course, their only answer, if you say, well, if you don't buy their excuse, it was some kind of psychological trauma or sociological pressures caused them to drink or take drugs, what's your answer? And they just say something like, well, I don't know, I think they're just weak. They're just weak people and they're looking for a way out, which of course is no answer at all. Because then you say, well, why are they weak? So you see, that doesn't even get anywhere anyway. It's just the public dance of people of it not being acceptable to say, well, the reason I drink is because of, and everybody waits because they know it's going to be some sociological or psychological explanation of the kind of pressures, the kind of traumas, the kind of untoward events in their life made them, forced them. You know, under the same conditions, who are we to say we'd probably done the same thing? Well, you probably would if your brain enjoyed being tickled that much by, you know, heroin and coke, alcohol. So it's not that the specifics are wrong. I just wanted you to see why I started off and gave you the point blank one to start with. People drink, people take drugs for one reason. One reason only. There's nothing else to say. It makes the brain feel good. That's it. There's nothing else to say. So what do people say? Everything but that. A little, how about this, even more viscid, captious, nuka-napa. Even that too. How about this? Let's take it a step further. They say, so 20 years repressed memories of childhood sexual abuse. 20 years of drinking, dope, wasted life, but now you're all right. All right, well, and you hear the audience go, ha ha. So the interviewer, civilized life, says, well, tell us how it came about. And they say, well, there I was, one of my darkest days. I'd been fired from the last place in town that would hire me in my chosen profession. I was sitting in a bar, I'd drive money, they were about to throw me out, and suddenly I turned around and this beautiful little old lady said, here, sir, and she handed me a pamphlet, and it was from, you know, a local Episcopalian Alcoholics Anonymous self-help group or support group. And I went, oh, no, I've heard all that. And she says, well, we'd be delighted to see you. And I thought, well, I don't even have anywhere to go. And she says, well, you know, we're open tonight. You can come down there. We've got coffee and something to eat. And I thought, well, what do I have to lose? And so you can hear the rest of the story. He goes down there, and probably after attending a few meetings, he probably met a new woman, if it was a man. You know, I now feel like I may have a chance at another relationship. I mean, I know I ruined my first one. My wife won't even speak to him. My children, I hadn't seen them in all those years. Yeah, we know all that. But now I've met a nice woman down there. And he talks about, well, of course, they always say, the common thing now is, well, they insist, well, I am not really cured from drinking or drug addiction. It's just that I have not had a drink, or I haven't had a hit or a toke in 5 years. Knock on wood. God bless me. Oh. And they'll describe, well, tell us, what you had to go through. And they'll describe the hellacious withdrawal symptoms, the pains, the demons that plagued them for several nights. And some of that poor woman, that's probably how he found this new love. She sat there with him in the basement of the Episcopalian Church, the YMCA. The withdrawal, it got so bad they finally had to take me one night after about the third night, and I'm shivering. Blood's been coming out of my nose, and I can't sleep. And they finally had to take me to the hospital, the emergency ward. And since then, and I keep having relapses, and my liver still has gone so far. And I was never religious, but now, of course, I realize there's a higher force that's helping me through this. which of course is the same higher force, by the way, that invented Lynchburg, Tennessee. And inspired a man to come up with the title Maker's Mark. For those of you that enjoy bourbon a little further, nobody seems to ever notice. In the West, they keep referring to God as my maker, and then it's about the only thing to give Mr. Motlow and his motley crew there at the Jack Daniel Distilleries in Lynchburg, Tennessee, a run for their money is Maker's Mark. But at any rate, you know the stories about all the problems. It makes great listening if you're ordinary about the fights you had to do all this. They never turn around to somebody and say, "Well, so I understand that you used to drink a lot." "Oh yeah, drank. Anytime I had any money and didn't have anything else to do or didn't have to go to work, hell, I'd take a drink." "Well, why? Why did you do it all those years?" "Made my brain feel good." So we established they wouldn't fool him. "But how about the same kind of guy?" "Well, I understand now that you don't drink anymore." "That's right. Why?" "Well, tell us about you drank all those years, now you don't drink." "Yeah." "Well, tell us about what do you mean?" "Well, tell us what did you do?" "I stopped." I'm doing live for the city, civilization. The interviewer going, "Well, but what?" "Well, the details." You just say, "Are you nuts? I gave you the details. I stopped." Well, all right. Let me put it to you this way. Tell us about all the problems, of relapses. How you keep. "I told you I stopped. I didn't say I went back." Yeah, but tell us about the times that you've fallen off the wagon. Going back to drinking or taking drugs. The guy says, "By any chance are you listening? I said I stopped. If I stopped, why would I go back?" I'm doing the. You notice none of that happens. Why? You can look at all of civilized talk, back to where we started, as really an attempt, in a sense, in a very real sense, an attempt not to say certain things. And the certain things are not the specifics, not just drugs and alcohol. The specifics are point blank reality. Because then you'd be faced with, if I may draw upon my own resources, there's a night and a night that a guy said, well, if we want the poetic, what was it? Whilst in the middle of his life, in the very center, heart of the city, two boulevards diverged. I kind of blew it. I should have put two boulevards diverged in the center of a city. Really make that old man frosty. And the guy looked around after he was considering the nature of civilization, its structures and institutions. You remember that guy that stopped, paused, and reflected low into himself or something like, and his reflection went something like this. It said, are the structures of civilization actually an imaginary Parthenon or a quite real cuckoo clock? Now, I know a few people snickered. I guess you thought it was some kind of joke that you didn't get. It wasn't a damn joke. It was a sociological point-blank comment. Strike sociological. It was a point-blank observation about life. But, do you understand? I know it seems like, if I may interpret my own joke, go ahead. Observation, go ahead. It would seem to be a certain kind of unexpected juxtaposition for a man to narrow down the two possibilities in his view of what life, the civilized life of man might be. And it's like he narrowed it down, all right, it's either an imaginary Parthenon, in other words, something really nice, beautiful, impressive. It's either an imaginary something impressive, or it's a quite real piece of shit. A cuckoo clock, an insane farm. That's the kind of juxtaposition that you can go, got to be some kind of weird joke. I don't make jokes. You people just laugh. I don't make jokes. I just report the facts. I mean, if you laugh, don't blame me. I don't write this. Hey, life writes it. I just look at it and tell you. So, you understand that there is a connection between that and what I'm telling you now is civilized talk, that is, which is almost everyone's ordinary talk, is an attempt not to be faced with that kind of decision making. That, wait a minute, it's all either this beautiful structure that we all imagine it is, and the key word is that we imagine it is, or it is something quite real that's not imaginary, that's not what we won't think it is. All right, it's either an illusionary, this great mirage, an illusionary. Think about up there on the hill above Athens, and us being the little paradigmatic Western Athenians, little philosophical hearts beating, and us peering up this beautiful structure representing the zenith of man's civilization, and yet someone says, I think it's a mirage. Ooh! All of civilization is represented in this man's reflecting low into himself. The Parthenon itself, the symbol of civilization. And someone says, but I think we're hallucinating. I think it's a mirage. But then what's the other alternative? You look around and we're in Athens, and we're all standing there in the gutter. Our feet's dirty. Most of us stink. A lot of us are ugly. Some of us are fat. Some of us are dumb. So what if it's that kind of choice? It's either an illusionary Parthenon, or it's a quite real insane asylum. That's not much of a choice, is it, if you're ordinary? And of course, I am not saying that. Don't take it that simply now. That's why it sounds complex, or at least strained attempts at juxtaposed humor. It's not either one of those. It's not an either-or situation. But notice, now back to my kind of examples, after we've been through all this. Why would somebody stand there, not just a talk show, not TV, not entertainment, but why can you talk to somebody and say, I hadn't seen you in 20 years. Last time I saw you, you were just a drunk. You just drank all the time. Yeah, that's true. I never did know you that well, but you always kind of interested me. You seemed like you had so much talent. Why'd you, what was it bugging you? I don't know. It took me 20 years, to figure that out. It doesn't take anybody any time to figure it out. That's what I'm telling you. It takes you 30 seconds. If you're the type, which most people in the world to some degree are going like something in their brain, if nothing else, imagine the kind of words and the kind of imaginary, or the kind of thoughts that create a kind of excitement in the nervous system, which is what religion has mainly done, is what all kinds of hobbies that are not physically based, that is an intake of substance. At any rate, don't let me confuse you. The guy saying it took me 20 years to figure out what it was that made me drink. If I may be so bold. It takes 30 seconds if you're the kind that's going to be, if you prove to be, shall we say, attracted to the effect of certain chemical substances, such as booze. It took the man not 20 years to figure out why he drank. It took him 30 seconds. First time somebody said, here, try this. And he went, oh, God, oh, Jesus, what the hell was that? Somebody said, George Nickel. Jesus, God, well, whoever the hell he was, I hope he made some more of that. what was that? That's about how long it takes. Of course, some people never drink, I know all that. But most people have a certain fondness for some sort of, something. So the man looks you dead in the eye, and he says, he says, it's truthful, it took me 20 years. I quit now, thank God, and thank AAA and my church, my new wife. But it took me 20 years of drinking and suffering to figure out why I drank. No, it took him 30 seconds. 30 seconds, max. First 20 seconds, his stomach and his body hollering, are you crazy? Are you nuts? Are you trying to kill us? Of course, you got the point. And him, doubled over, about to die, and it takes about 30 seconds, and suddenly it gets to the brain. He goes, what'd you say it was? That's how long it took him to know why he drank. Why can't he say that? he would then, I'm using he as representing civilization, the mainstream of humanity at any given time. He would then be in a position of two great boulevards at least diverged in a city, in him, in a life, and him wondering, is the good parts I hear about, is the good parts I think I perceive, is it simply, could it be an illusionary Parthenon? Could it be a mirage of Mecca? Or is the other boulevard something quite real? But I look down there, you know, it looks like Barnum and Bailey's circus. Yeah. Looks like something that, I don't know. But as long as you can say, well, the reason that I'm normal, the reason I drink, you know, it's taken me 20 years to figure out why I'm so bland. I mean, so drunk. Yeah. But I think I've got it now. I'm like, well, why does anybody keep listening? I'm talking to you now. Ordinary people listen because they're that hard up for entertainment. Yeah. But you know what he's going to say? He's going to say anything except point blank. That is, he's going to say anything. You say, well, why in the world did a man, at one time you were on the Olympic team. You had endorsements. You were making what? $1 million a year when you were 19. You had a promising career that you'd have been already offered some parts in movies, I know, and then cocaine got you. Yeah. 10 years of my life gone. Couldn't figure out, it took me that long to figure out what it was. And then he starts this thing about success too early. And my impoverished background, whatever it was, it did not. It took him, coke, about the same. It didn't take him 10 years to figure out why he did it. It took him 30 seconds for it to get to his brain and him go, ooh, wow, nobody ever told me about that. Why can't he do it? What would that do to the illusion? And I'm using illusion in the widest sense of the Parthenon. What would it do to the goodness of civilization? What good would that do? If everybody who drinks right now said, all right, we're tired of lying. You brought us to our senses, and from now on, everybody that's ever asked, why do you drink and take drugs? They go, because it made my brain feel good. Why did you quit? Well, I was about to die. Is the tape out? Let's stop. I didn't want to run out. So in conclusion, I'd like to say that that's the conclusion. Tonight,